Hey everybody, Mark Coxon, the AV Phenom. I want to talk to you today about AV as food, contrast ratio as Oreos. So real quick pop quiz, which one of these has a brighter white? The answer is they're both exactly the same. Now one of them looked brighter because of contrast ratio. Your eyes compare the darkest dark to the whitest white, and that's how they determine the brightness, relative brightness of the image, and that's how our eyes work. So in a projected image, brightness is important as a tool, but only as a tool as it pertains to what kind of contrast ratio it gets us, which determines what the image looks like. Real quick test. 2 letters, or 1 letter on both cookies. Again, easier to decipher the one on the dark background than the light background because our eyes work on contrast. Now, if you take one thing away from this video, take away that you can't project black. Your deepest black in a projected system is the color of the screen that you're projecting on with the lights at the level that you're using. As if I was projecting out here, the deepest black I would get on this wall is the color of this wall right now as you see it. And the only way I could make that look or create contrast is put white so bright next to it that that starts to look darker by comparison. But that's an uphill battle and would take a ton of light in order to make that work. So how do we increase contrast ratio in a projected image system? 1, lower the lights. We know that controllable light, blinds, etc. If we make the room darker, this is darker, and when this is darker, the same brightness compared to that, more contrast ratio. Another way, gray screens. So you may have seen in the past high contrast screen materials. Most of those screen materials were gray. That means the base color of the screen is actually darker to start. You may need to put a little more brightness on it in order to get full white, but then you have increased contrast ratio because you're using a gray screen or a dark gray screen instead of a white screen and then white on top of that. And the third way, more recent, materials technology has increased. We have ambient light rejecting screens, which means the light coming from out here and over here and up here may be rejected off of that screen, and only the light coming from a certain angle from the projector is the light that's reflected back to the eyes. Ambient light rejection screens can increase your contrast ratio as well. Now, they do, just like gain in my last video, usually come with some compromise in viewable angle, whether that's a reduced horizontal cone or whether that's a reduced vertical cone. Some reduce both cones, some reduce one. You should really take a look at those different screens to see what your compromises are when you do ambient light rejection. So remember, a projected image is only as good as its contrast, especially video. If you think of grayscale and dark scenes and all those things, if you're playing a video, your grayscale is super important and you're going to lose all of that detail. If you're doing PowerPoint, you might be able to create content that works around the contrast ratio because you control the colors in the background image. But at the end of the day, these 2 whites are the same color. It's only contrast that makes this one look brighter. All right, this has been AV as Food. Bon appetit.